against the significant benefit of obviously kind of at minimum the significant degradation or destruction of Iranian conventional military power and the possibility of a dramatic change to a much friendlier Iranian government. The military campaign is not riding on that as a designated outcome, but we're hoping for it, and that's a lot of that's in the hands of the Iranian people. I think that a lot of it would be, and something to say on the munitions piece, sir, is that we've gotten over top now, or we're getting over top, our forces are getting over top, so they can use a lot of these munitions that we do have, as the President said, in much more plentiful supply. I think we're conscious of the risks. I mean, we know this is part of the reason for it. The Islamic Republic has conducted terrorism in the past. We're very acutely conscious of that. But I think a goal, this is why, this is not Iraq, I guess, 3.0, right? We are not doing nation building. We're not flowing. Obviously, the President has the option to use a variety of capabilities, but this is not, Jerry Bremer, CPA, et cetera.
Let me ask one more question, my time. And my goal is to have your voice uplifted, so I don't want to ask you hard questions because maybe they'll discount your voice. I like the fact that you're in the administration compared to some of the other folks who are in the administration. By the way, Vice President Vance used to be where you were in terms of not getting into these wars until he's gone in the kind of Lindsey Graham direction. I actually don't understand it. Donald Trump beat Lindsey Graham in 2016, and now Lindsey Graham has become the face of Donald Trump's foreign policy. It's like, what happened? But let me ask you this last question. What about the view that Iran is just going to rebuild these things in 6 months, in 1 year? What is the plan? General Patriot said, what is the plan after Iraq? What is the plan? Are we going to go bomb them again?
Well, I think that's a great question, sir, and that's the one that we're wanting to make sure, and part of the reason why the industrial capacity is such a part of it, and I certainly am thinking about General Petraeus' famous admonition, because that's a critical part, and this is still, obviously, the conflict has just begun, but we need to, day by day, in a dynamic situation, make sure that we end up, and we don't, and the President has said that, we don't get right back into it.
You're a serious person. I hope this doesn't hurt you more than help you, but I've always found you to be engaged with intellectual honesty, and I appreciate some of your writing.
The gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Nebraska, Mr. Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate Secretary Colby you being here today. My feedback, I got some good, maybe some bad, some ugly. On the good side, I appreciate the actions taken against Iran. I served 30 years in the Air Force. I've lost friends to the Iranian proxy groups. A good friend of mine at Khobar Towers, for example. When I was in Iraq, we were targeted every single day by proxy groups from the IRGC. This action should have been done a long time ago to restore deterrence. And I can't think of a better group of folks to target than the Ayatollah and his henchmen, because they have over 1,000 Americans' blood on their hands. I appreciate the action taken against Maduro, who took the most wealthy nation to the poorest nation in South America. For the life of me, though, I can't figure out why we're propping up his vice president as a dictator follow-on. Here's the ugly. Well, first of all, maybe less ugly, China. Some of the statements that I read in the NDS, it communicates weakness to them, that China could just do an invasion of Taiwan as a fait accompli, and it sort of communicates we don't have the ability maybe to deter that. We'll come back to that. But this is what really steams me. The administration, writ large, starting with the president on down, communicates weakness when it comes to Russia. Why does this administration, and this is rhetorical, I'll get to my first question, I can't figure out why the president treats Zelensky in Ukraine more harsh than he does Putin, who's the invader, who's bombing cities every night. He treats Putin with velvet gloves, but he gives Zelensky the old boxing glove treatment, and I don't get it. There's like a moral blindness in this administration when it comes to Russia. And you see it in the NDS with one line on Russia, one line. A whole page is on Europe, and attacking Europe or criticizing Europe, and one sentence on Russia. It just bothers me. When I read the NDS, and I'm a history guy, and I've read the previous NDSs here, and as a general and colonel, I read the ones going farther back. This reads a lot like 1890s national security strategy. Western Hemisphere, spheres of influence, homeland security, as if we never fought a world war. It's as if we never had the Cold War. It's as if we never had the war on terror where we had allies fighting with us in Iraq and Afghanistan. So I'll get to my first question. In the NDS, it does say there has to be clear accountability. Incentives work will be a critical part of our alliance. We will prioritize cooperation with model allies, those spending what they need to do and doing more against regional threats with critical but limited U.S. support. I can't figure out why the Pentagon said they didn't want to do the Baltic Security Initiative and also talk about withdrawing forces out of the Baltics when they lead the way. They have the highest level of defense spending. So why not be stronger for our Baltic friends?
Well, sir, I've seen your commentary, and one thing I must say I appreciate today is I think you rightly recognize this as part of from the president and the secretary on down. We all are thinking the same way, and so it's a total myth that we're not aligned with the president. I appreciate that your point and your questions, like Congressman Khanna's, they're straightforward. So I'll grapple with them in the same spirit that you offered, and I'm happy to come talk. I know we have different views and different views with many in the administration, but I appreciate the way you framed it, sir, and don't take it for granted. I would say, so from what it sounds like, I mean, this document and the national security strategy describing the president's approach, and I'll get to your question, sir, is flexible realism, is a practical approach. I think it's a bit different than yours. In some ways, maybe yours has been in the ascendancy in the past, and we're trying to make a break, but we're not trying to con you about it. It's pretty straightforward. I recognize, obviously, your distinguished military service. This is more kind of grounded in military reality, almost like a more empirical, kind of dispassionate way, and less in the rhetorical style. Sir, one thing I would really stress on is we see ourselves as in line with the Cold War legacy and more of a break from the post-1989, when I think we got a bit hubristic, as the document says. We don't talk about spheres of influence. That's something that's put on us. And we can get into a discussion about the 1890s. I don't know. It's interesting. On Baltic Security Initiative, let me get back to you we are not trying to punish the Baltic states. The president has been clear that our wealthy allies should be prepared to step up. We're looking at this in a pragmatic way, with generally trying to get Europe moving the same direction. Just as your predecessor, sir, said about China, the goal with Russia is to avoid a war, while we're, and to Mr. Turner's point about protecting NATO, but we got to do it in a militarily realistic way, and you know this very well, sir.
So my opinion is, if Ukraine prevails, our world is a much darker, worse place. We're going to be spending a lot more money. We should be doing more in Eastern Europe, particularly helping out Ukraine right now with weapons, sanctions, but the president does not communicate that, and it's really, I think it's his biggest failure right now, because you look at every poll, you look at 30 different issues, Ukraine polls second worst or the worst in every poll, and it's because he communicates weakness. I hope you take that back to the president and the White House. Thank you.
Gentleman's time has expired. Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Keating.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Colby, you said throughout this hearing that you're consulting with the president, the vice president, regularly, great conversation. In fact, you said that you don't do, this is, I think, your earlier testimony today, you do not do anything not aligned with the president. So I have a question for you. In last July, it was reported that your office suspended U.S. weapons shipments to Ukraine, including but not limited to precision-guided rockets, 155 munitions, and Patriot missiles. And this risked Ukraine lives. It undermined our credibility, not just with Ukraine, but with our allies, the 50 countries that are part of this alliance. And it made it harder to get to an end to this war. And this decision seemingly took place out of nowhere. Now, this took place at your office, yet the president was asked about this a few days later in the Oval Office, and he denied making any order to suspend this. He said, I'll be the first to know. In fact, most likely I'll give the order, but I haven't done that yet. So the president, who you're in consultation with all the time and you're always aligned with, well, he disagreed with this. He said he didn't do anything. He said it didn't happen, even though it did. And it's your office. So tell us who made that decision. Did the president make the decision the way he alluded to, or did you make that decision? Now, the president said from the Oval Office that he didn't make that decision. So who did? Who made that decision that caused such great risk that I just outlined to you? Was it you, sir?
Would you like
Since
me to
it's
answer,
your
sir,
office.
or no? Yeah. Would you like me to answer or no, sir?
You're ready.
Okay. Well, let me just clarify something, sir. I'm particularly focused on my interactions with the secretary who interacts with the president. So just to be clear, not to overstate my access to the president, I wouldn't presume to do so. But obviously, we make a point of staying.
Well,
I make a personal
you don't
point of
appear in
staying.
concert with the president on this.
I'm aligned, totally aligned with the presidential intent.
Well, then
I
explain
can answer your question.
explain
sir.
how you weren't aligned in this instance.
Well, sir, I think we are aligned, and I'll get to that in a second. First of all, I'm not in the chain of command, so I can't order something, and I wouldn't.
It was your office. So tell me who
So there is,
made that suspension decision.
So there is a memorandum, as has been described before, that lays out a framework for making intelligent decisions.
No, I don't
based
want
on-
this. Listen,
That the
you're
secretary
getting
can
something.
recommend to the
You're getting
president.
something.
And then, sir, what we've done, and
Please, I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman. Listen, you're getting a chance, maybe, that you're not getting all morning, to deal with a specific instance, a specific time that requires a clear-cut answer. So don't give me policy or framework.
Well, I'm
I'm
policy
asking
guy.
you, who the hell made that decision that endangered so many people's lives?
Sir, there's a memorandum.
Everyone's,
the-
you're like the 3 months.
There is.
See no
the
evil, hear no
pause-
evil.
The
What is this
alleged
doing?
pause, we did not, I'm not in a position to order a pause. I didn't order.
Then
a
who
pause.
did?
Presumed to order a pause. I don't actually know.
The
That-
president
I'm not
didn't
sure.
by his own
We can
admission.
get back to you with a more
How can
detailed
you
answer.
be in your position?
But one thing I
in
can
your
say-
office, sir? This is your office. This is your responsibility.
Right. I'm a
and
policy
you can't tell me
advisor, sir.
who made a decision like that that jeopardized the lives of so many people.